Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 58 of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, things were pretty darn bad. The Elric brothers and Izumi had all been disassembled by alchemy by that doctor, presumably on the orders of Father. Naturally, no good can come of this, and the whole thing has basically wrong-footed everyone. You know, I guess it really sort of shows that Izumi Curtis had the right idea initially, in that she would just pop in to help and then, get out of Dodge, but I guess she wasn't fast enough to make good on that. Now I'm wondering if there's some greater utility to what's going on here, cause, I guess there is. It's activating the citywide circle as a whole, but I was wondering if Father might just be doing this to sort of wrangle everybody, get them all in one place. So, despite everything that's going on, citywide alchemy-wise, Greed and or Ling, whoever's in control right now, they're obviously too incensed and, quite frankly, too busy dealing with Wrath to worry about that right now. I'm wondering... I guess Wrath isn't too keen on falling and losing sight of Greed, but I'm wondering what exactly the big deal is about falling, I don't imagine a fall like that would be fatal to anyone. Unfortunately, Lanfan has had a rather stupid idea here. She's decided to support the body weight of two people with only her recently installed prosthetic limb. I think it's pretty obvious that this is not going to lead to good outcomes, and, it's already starting to tear. I'd imagine that that's horrendously painful. And it would have to take, a severe force of will to just maintain your grip on people like that. So, I can't really fault that soldier's initiative to sort of shoot Bradley when he was presenting a good target, but I feel like it might have been better to just, focus on hauling people up and taking the weight off of Lanfan's arm. It's not like he killed Bradley or anything, but he certainly did wound him, so I guess, it's not a total wash. So it's interesting here that it's alchemical knowledge that's the limiting reagent here, as it were. It's kind of tragic in a way. Ling has essentially as much raw material as you could want to help Fu, but without the proper knowledge, there's nothing he can do, I feel like maybe Greed, having an innate understanding of how to regenerate, maybe he could do something, but I mean, frankly, given what had happened to Fu, it was probably already too late to begin with. So, I was sort of considering this earlier, but considering how they shot Bradley and he just sort of fell into the water and they lost sight of him, everybody's sort of assuming that he might be dead, or at the very least, they're not worried about him right now, but, oh, yeah, there we have it, Ling's saying, like, yep, we killed him, it's good, nobody here died in vain. Like, you don't have a corpse, so I think it's a little early to sort of rule him out as having been killed. And, even if Wrath had been killed, things aren't particularly good, the Brig soldiers are running dry on ammunition. They were in a pretty defensible position, so, it wasn't like the situation was bad, but if they're running out of ammo, they can't keep suppressive fire going, that means the Emestrian soldiers are just going to charge them. So this is a rare moment of sincerity from Captain Buccaneer, Obviously he's dying. He knows he's not going to live long enough to fulfill his orders, so he's just sort of beseeching Ling and or Greed to hold down the fort. And I guess, how can he turn down a dying man's request, especially when that man sought to help him? It would only be right, after all. I mean, if nothing else, Greed certainly can work off some stress on the soldiers that would try to take the gate. So this is an interesting bit of symbiosis in that Greed is just sort of turning over his powers to Ling upon request. I mean, he says, like, this isn't the end, I've got stuff I need to do later, so, yeah, you can run rampant for now. That's interesting, because, this still sort of shows that Greed's like a player in this game. He's got his own plans and ambitions. Why wouldn't he, after all? But, he's not content to merely play a passive role in events, He wants to change things to his favor. Now, I do find it interesting that Ling, despite putting on that ultimate shield, he's neglected to cover his head and face. And I don't think we've ever seen this incarnation of Greed do that. I mean, it seems to me like that's a poor choice on his part, but I guess the idea here is to show confidence, that even though he's advancing on these soldiers, all the weapons they have mean nothing to him. And, of course, now that I say that, he does it, so I guess it shows what I know. But, I can see how the effect would be rather intimidating. It's like a person wearing armor and advancing without their helmet saying, like, dude, I don't care about you guys are small potatoes. The confidence alone is intimidating. So pretty much in one fell swoop, whatever gains the homunculus aligned forces had made, Greed swiftly undid all that. So that really just goes to show you how a homunculus is pretty darn potent in comparison to even groups of soldiers. I mean, even if Greed isn't the combatant that Wrath is, he's certainly sturdy enough to shrug off all the small arms fire they can produce. It's pretty incredible when even getting hit by a truck isn't really more than a minor inconvenience. I mean, I have no practical experience in that matter, but I'd imagine being hit by a car kind of hurts. I think it's rather telling that some onlookers are unsure whether or not that's Ling or Greed in control here, given the destruction he has wrought, I guess it's good that they're all sort of relieved that he's fighting for them rather than against them. That would certainly put an end to things real quickly if the reverse were true. It's nice that the captain here is rather phlegmatic about death. That's always something I like in fiction, because, obviously he doesn't want to die, but given that the situation is more or less in hand, he can die without too many regrets. It is also nice that, even in death, he essentially maintained his composure the entire time. He was just focused on the mission rather than, anything more trivial or personal in his life. So this is an interesting little segment here showing that, I guess, news of the unrest is spreading. People don't necessarily know what's going on, but they know something is going on, and it's likely not good. It's also kind of interesting that, little children, like Hughes' daughter, she doesn't understand what's going on. She's more disappointed that she can't go play with her friends more than anything else. But her mother reassures her, you can watch the eclipse, and that might be a good thing when taken at face value, but I believe we've already sort of been made aware that the eclipse is sort of the crux of everything here. It's the appointed time, as it were, and it's not a good omen. So it's a rather unfortunate situation here that everyone left who hasn't been taken by the portal, none of them really know what to make of the situation or really know anything about it. So they're basically just, the blind leading the blind here. So I'm a little curious how this is going to pan out, because obviously losing loyal subordinates is no good thing, but Major General Armstrong is made of steel, so I doubt she would even, really react or anything. She'd probably be focused on the mission. I feel like in private she would have to at least mourn the captain a little bit, given that he was such a loyal and trusted subordinate. There we go. That's a little bit of a reaction. You know, I think that's a nice compromise. That little reaction shows she does care, but, you know, obviously now is not the time to mourn and all that. So it would seem as though this whole business with the truth, it really just served to basically wrangle everyone and get them together in one location. Or at the very least, Ed and Izumi are now together. So now with Alphonse, that makes 3 sacrifices together. You know, Izumi's starting to put the pieces together here. All these sacrifices are being gathered and grouped together. Oh dear. Yeah, this is a rather unsettling image with Father here sort of subsuming Hohenheim, presumably to use him as a sacrifice as well. You know, unfortunately, this group here makes 4, and as Father said, you know, he needs 1 more. I feel like he's not in a position to just sort of wait for somebody to stumble upon human transmutation and do it on their own. Which, you know, that begs the question of how precisely he's going to get around something like this. You know, it would be awfully convenient if there were just, like, another person who had committed transmutation that we hadn't been aware of until now, but I don't know. I think generally speaking, the writing in Fullmetal Alchemist has been good enough to avoid something like that. Yeah, you know, I think this sort of, this form of Father is rather unsettling because he sort of gives up the pretense that he's human in any capacity. And he's just sort of being outright with the fact that he is a monster. I guess it's honest. So interestingly enough, the doctor here from before was musing on the same topic, like, you know, they only managed to get 4 sacrifices. Almost as if, you know, he would have a solution to this problem, and he very well might, in all honesty. Who knows? So yep, here we go. He's sort of, he's holding Mustang over the barrel here, and he'll have a sacrifice one way or another. You know, either Mustang can commit human transmutation willingly, or, you know, presumably if he does not comply, there's, presumably they have some extra leverage somewhere. I mean, if nothing else, they've got Hawkeye hostage too. Mustang certainly cares about her. So Mustang's asking a rather pertinent question here. What's the point in getting him to try human transmutation if it's doomed to failure? And that is a good point, but, you know, succeeding isn't the goal here. Yeah, these guys really aren't playing around if they're just willing to slit Hawkeye's throat like that. Oh, man. I mean, if I'm being honest, there's probably no better leverage than this to sort of goad Mustang into performing the transmutation. But I mean, thinking about it, even if he does perform the transmutation, there's no guarantee that she would be saved. I mean, I guess the way the doctor's framing it is, if Mustang hurries up and does something, she could live. But at the same time, Hawkeye is unwilling to allow things to come to pass. So there we go. You know, it seems like the human transmutation isn't to save Hawkeye's life. She's merely the incentive. You know, the doctor can save her, provided Mustang capitulates and she's still alive. Oh dear, this is certainly quite a pickle Colonel Mustang has found himself in. You know, there's definitely no good answer here, no matter what he does. I mean, even as she lies bleeding and dying, Hawkeye is adamant that, you know, Mustang doesn't have to do this, you know, even if she's essentially violating her orders not to die, you know. She claims her life is not worth all this, but, you know, something tells me that Mustang wouldn't necessarily agree. Oh, man. Strong though he was, you know, it turns out everybody does have a price. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.